So how do you feel about sharing your story today?
I feel pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty good at talking about myself. I feel like I was always sort of like gender non-conforming growing up. When I like look back at it, I like see how much things got lost by what other people were like telling me. I've been out as a man for about a year now. I've like come out to my parents and like I haven't come out to my extended family yet. There is part of me that it still feels a little fragmented and like I sort of have to kind of like weave in and out of like my identity sometimes and like put on different masks. You know, it never feels like the right time to kind of like come out to people who you know it's going to be a harder conversation. I'm trying to like think through more is like how much of a trauma it is to be like carrying this around and like repressing your identity is a trauma and like being told you're something you're not. Like you hold this stuff and that's why like coming out or like I don't even know if I love the term coming out, but just like telling your family who you are and like expressing that can be so hard because like you literally feel like you are like reworking your whole life and like explaining and redefining things, and it just feels very emotional and intense. For the possibility of that to be met with like just like something that could be totally heartbreaking or just like nothing, like a flatness, is like so scary.
What would you hope to see more of in terms of like representation and like education?
I think like the most important thing is just to have individualized stories, not to like clump people together. What you see so much is like there'll be representation of like one trans person that's supposed to like speak for the whole community, and that's so scary because it doesn't let people have any kind of like confliction. It is really just like this one narrative of what it means to be trans that like I think it took me such a long time to come out because like I never felt like that suited me. Like I get misgendered always, like people don't assume that I'm a man. On one hand I'm like I don't really care or I like don't want to care, but then like there is a part of me that like does feel hurt and like misread and frustrated when like people don't even like consider that like I don't identify as a woman and that I'm not a woman. I think a lot about what it means to be me and like what it means to be trans and how I don't need an exterior to prove myself to anybody, but at the same time like from like a very personal place there are things that like you know like I still struggle with like dysmorphia and like struggle with my body, and there are definitely like things that I know could like help. I'm like, do I need to change my body? Like, is that necessary? But also I'm like, okay, but if I want to and I want to like look a certain way, like I should be allowed to. Because normally the narrative is like, oh, I was born in the wrong body. And I can't stand that because I don't think this is like the wrong body per se. I just experience this body in a different way and like struggle with this body, but it doesn't mean that like it's the wrong body because it's like then what body, you know, like it is your body. I feel like mostly I lean towards like wanting to look into HRT, but I feel like also like what I think like a man looks like or like me as a man looks like probably wouldn't like be placed in like such like a confined box. But I'm like down to like play around with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Could you speak about your process of coming sort of like to self-acceptance with your gender identity?
When I look back at it, I like think so much about like the way that I was dressing and the way that I was behaving. It definitely feels like I was repressing something. It wasn't until like I graduated and I moved out to Halifax and went to school for like a couple months and then I dropped out. And I came home and I was just kind of like trying to like pick the pieces of my life up, and I was like dealing with a lot of mental illness, and like I had like different doctors telling me different things, like that I was bipolar, that I wasn't bipolar, that I maybe had like borderline personality or like all these diagnoses. I don't know, but at the same time I was like I started going to more punk shows and meeting more people like and like people who like identified as queer and non-binary. So that was like a big deal, and I think that like really helped me like take some steps forward and like get insight into, I don't know, like identifying outside of the binary. And for a while I like had asked people to start using non-binary pronouns for me. That felt like okay, but it honestly, like when I think about it, like it wasn't hard enough. Like it was like actually too easy to ask for that. And then like last year, I was like in Montreal and I was with my band playing a show, and my partner is in my band. And at one point we were like taking a walk together, and he kind of just like was like, I want to tell you something. And I was like, okay. And he was like, so I think that I'm bi-curious. And I was like, oh, amazing. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's amazing. And like I just kind of like blurted out, or like he had kind of been like, yeah, like I don't know, I've just like been thinking for a little bit, and like I don't know, it's like I've been like interested in dudes and whatever. And I was like, well, that's cool because like I am one. And it just like kind of like slipped out. And I think that I had been like thinking about it for a while, but I had never said it out loud, and or even like really it wasn't like something I was planning to do. And then when I said it, I was like, oh, and back. Because also part of me like felt really bad because I was like taking his coming out moment away from him. And it was like kind of crazy, and we were both just like, okay, we have like a lot to think about. And we spent like that week like staying up every night and just like talking through both of our situations and like crying a lot and being like, I hope that we can get through this.
Were you ever scared of like losing him at any point in time?
Yeah, and I think like even though like he's amazing, and like when I like came in as like non-binary, like he didn't even think twice about it and immediately was just like, yeah, cool. So like I don't know why I was so afraid, but I guess because like there was that possibility that like he wasn't going to like be attracted to me or like be still in love with me if I was like saying that I was like different than who I was. And I don't know why we had to do this like that week, but we both decided that we were going to sleep with other people. And so on like the exact same night, we like both went on a date with like a different person, and we both like slept with somebody else. And then we just like came home to each other, and we were just like, oh my god, I love you so much. And that was that. And like we haven't really like questioned it since. It's like kind of strange because it was like I had like just come out, and I like went to hook up with this girl, and she was very much like, oh, I am a lesbian, like I love women, like blah blah blah. We had like a lot of fun, but like she was definitely like, see, like it's so much better when it's like two women. And like I had even like kind of like said that I was trans and like all this stuff, but she was like, we know each other's bodies, blah blah blah. And I was like, I don't know. People who are gay can sometimes like be a little transphobic in the way that they like assume their own sexual orientation like onto other people's gender identities, and like that can be, it can just feel like very objectifying and like dismissive. Mm-hmm. And like it doesn't really affect me because I've like been in this like long-term relationship with somebody who just like really has always like respected who I am, and like it hasn't really mattered to him like whether I'm a woman or like non-binary or a man. We just like are attracted to each other and love each other, and like that's what it is.
So if you could go back now and like give a younger you advice at any point in your life journey, what would you like to say to yourself?
I would probably just like tell my younger self to just like say who you are and like do whatever you want to do as long as like you're not hurting people. When you're younger, you don't realize that is that like if like you're just like really confident and just like really expressive of who you are, like people are gonna respect that. Like if somebody's like, you're fucking weird, it's like, I know. Right?